The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your boy Shane Hector from the No BS, No Holds Barred Sports Talk Show. I am back in the building after a little hiatus. I know everybody was wondering where I've been these past few weeks. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't dive off the deep end and go to Africa and then come back. Okay, I'm fine. I'm here. We're going to have some fun this morning, and we're going to have a lot to talk about because there's going to be some things to talk about. Your favorite sports show on the WBGR Sports Network is back on this nice, beautiful Saturday morning, the day after Valentine's Day for all of you lovers out there, all your lovers and friends. But, speaking of lovers and friends, we're going to have some love to talk about this morning, and then we're going to be talking about, some NASCAR, some basketball, and of course, since I never got the opportunity to talk about it, but I'm also going to bring it up just because it's coming up, we're going to just get into it. So, let's go ahead and look at the number to call. The number to call this morning is 301-429-9247. That is the number to call. You can also comment, share on the show. You guys can give me a call this morning if you guys want to talk to me and, of course, debate with me on some of these topics this early morning. So, with that being said, let's look at the topics for the day. For the day, we're to talk about the 2020 season. Who will be at the top? Who will be at the end? Who will be at the top at the end of this year? Is it this upcoming NASCAR season? Since Daytona 500 is tomorrow, but today the Xfinity Series 300 is today, so that's going to be interesting. And last night was the Gander Truck Series last night, so of course we're going to talk a little bit about that. We got to talk about the Black Mamba. Talk about the Black Mamba and his Mambacita, Gianna. We will never forget them, ever. We're going to talk about the legacy of Kobe Bryant, how his memorial is coming up on the 24th. And then we're also going to talk about Kobe's death and what does it mean for the NBA and what does it mean for almost everybody. And I will give you my take on it so we could talk about Kobe and what he meant to me and what he meant to a lot of people, out here, and then also, talk about that. And then we're going to end it, since we're going to be talking about Kobe, we're going to talk about the NBA at the very end, and who I believe will make it to the NBA Finals, and who's going to really run the table and possibly get this ring this year. So, with that being said, with no further ado, we're going to talk about the Daytona 500. So let's jump straight into that. So the Daytona 500 is on Sunday at 2:30 on Sunday afternoon. Now, I know for some people, because football fans are out there, I know they're going to be looking at some football because the XFL is back. Vince McMahon finally found a way to get that league back up and running and started. So with that being said, I know some people might think that that's going to be a conflict. To be honest with you, I don't really think it's going to be that much of a conflict just because of the fact that the Daytona 500 is one of the largest races in all of sports. In fact, I just put out an article on my Facebook page, and I've also put out it on my website. You guys will be able to look at that very soon. And then also on the WBGR Sports page, you will see the article that was just posted yesterday about it. So what's going to end up happening is mainly the things you guys got to focus on, because we're going to be talking about a lot of things as far as that. So, the Daytona 500, largest race in sports right now, right? They sold out all 101,000 tickets. 101,000 tickets. That is a lot of tickets. So they sold out every last one of them. So I want people to understand that this isn't just some, some ragtag stuff. I mean, these guys straight up, just did what they're supposed to do. So, that's just what it is. And then what's even more crazy is the fact that a lot of guys have changed teams this year, because we got a bunch of guys that are coming from the Xfinity series and they've gone into the NASCAR Cup Series. It's no longer called the Monster Energy Series anymore, mainly because of the fact that obviously the sponsorship is not there, so therefore it's not called the Monster Cup Energy. Is it Monster Energy Series anymore? However, that does not mean that it's still not the largest series, because these drivers are some of the best in this division. And so, with that being said, one of the drivers that I think people need to watch out for, because he was killing in the Xfinity series, which is Tyler Reddick. Reddick, I think, is really good. He's one of the best drivers I've seen in a long time. He won the Xfinity series in points for the past 2 years. Okay, for the past 2 years. So since that was the case, that he was the Cup champion for the past 2 seasons for Xfinity, I can't see how he does not perform very well in the NASCAR Cup Series. Now, the problem is, though, I will say this, is that in the NASCAR Cup Series, it is a little bit more competitive. I had a chance to catch up with Bubba Wallace last year, right after Pocono Raceway. And even when I asked him, because I asked him the question, I asked him how did he feel about being in the NASCAR Cup Series versus the Xfinity, and he said, and I quote, "They're 2 different leagues, 2 different divisions, and it's like going from the D League over to the majors. That's kind of what it's like." So that's how it was for Bubba. I'm assuming it's going to be probably the same for Tyler Reddick. Now the thing is, we don't know if they're going to both have the same success, because obviously Bubba had some issues last season in the NASCAR Cup Series, and then in 2018 when he first got into the Cup Series, he came second in the at the Daytona 500. Now, the reason why this race is going to be highly important, especially for Bubba, is because I want to give people, since we in the honor of Black History Month, what people don't realize is there have been African American drivers throughout NASCAR for years. It's just that the problem is not a lot of them have been successful, but the most successful one was Wendell Scott, and that was way back. I mean, the last time we heard of Wendell Scott was 1966, in which he came 13th at the Daytona 500. The guy who won that race happens to be the guy who hired Bubba Wallace to drive his 43 car, which is Richard Petty. Now, Petty won that race that season. But oddly enough, Bubba Wallace, the only African American driver in all of NASCAR, is also the only promising driver that has the talent. And it's not like he doesn't. And he's a very good driver. We've seen him have some strides. Some races he'll be in top 5, and then there's some races you're like, how did he have a bad run? And next thing you know, he's in the bottom 20. It just happens. We've seen this happen with Bubba so many times. However, the thing about Bubba Wallace that I want people to keep in mind is that this race we just saw in practice that he came in 4th. Okay, he came in 4th place in practice, right? So because he came 4th in practice, I say to everybody, look, get this man, some slack, get this man some time, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna come out swinging, and I'm pretty sure that that he's gonna kill it. Now, with that being said, I want people to keep this in mind. The guy who I think he's going to have his issues with is going to be Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin is a 2 out of the last 4 years has won the Daytona 500. He won it back in 2016. He's won it back in 2019, right? So, with that being said, though, that's the guy he's going to have to really, really watch for, because Denny Hamlin has been killing. He's a very good driver. He's always been a good driver. I've actually watched him throughout the years. He's always been great in that number 11 Toyota. And the thing that gets me is he's also he's a very good ambassador for NASCAR. Like, he's a very vocal driver. He's all about trying to make the game, better for drivers, but also working with NASCAR in order to make things better for the drivers. Like, a perfect example of that was when Pocono Raceway came about, and they talk about the PJ1 and how that compound was used for that track in order for guys to be able to have different lanes in order to have good speed coming out of those tight corners. And, and some guys didn't like it, some guys didn't. But the thing is he was a very huge advocate of it, and then eventually it ended up working. And then now, I'm pretty sure going forward, NASCAR will use the PJ1 a lot at Pocono Raceway. Now, also, what's even more interesting about this dude is you gotta also keep this in mind, that between Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, and Joey Logano, I mean, out of those 3 drivers, my money would be on Denny. But if I had to watch the sleeper was most certainly Bubba Wallace, because Bubba, he's been so close before. And for him, if he wins this race, he will be the first African-American driver to win the Daytona 500, which is the largest race ever. And for a lot of race fans, especially African-American race fans, this would show that, yes, African-Americans can most certainly compete in NASCAR. And then, speaking of that, the thing is I put this out in my article about the Drive for Diversity program and how they're adding 6 more drivers. They're all young. They're very, very young, between the ages of 16 all the way up to 21 years old. One of them is actually a DC native. So that's why I explain to people that they are working diligently to make that program work, and it's been working because they're trying to get certain guys in so that way they can be successful. But the problem is there's still the lack of success for minority drivers to be successful in NASCAR, because I hate to say it, the sport of NASCAR has always been predominantly white American, and they've always been dominated in that sport for a long time, mainly because of the fact that we're just going to talk about history, because I know some people don't want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. Is NASCAR, I hate to say it, has historically never allowed minorities into that sport, historically. And then up until recently, in the past 20 years, NASCAR has changed that, has done what they're supposed to do to change that stance. And so now what's happening is now you're seeing a lot more drivers of different backgrounds coming to the sport. I mean, you saw Juan Pablo Montoya. He was a very good driver for a long time before he left the sport in about 2014. And then you see, Bubba Wallace coming to the scene and how he's been killing ever since then. And so now we're trying to see who could be that successful driver that could be consistent, get top 10 finishes all the time, and not only get top 10 finishes, but also find a way to win some of these big races, especially like the Daytona 500 or Talladega, or the Coca-Cola 400 or Pocono Raceway or the Glen or Watkins Glen. Now, this is going to be a very, very long season. Now, to give you guys some background, the Daytona is a speedway. It is an international speedway. It's a 2.5 mile course. So, since it's a 500-mile race, That's about 200 laps when you divide 2.5 into 500. So, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up seeing a lot of different things. Now, the one thing that everybody's going to have to watch out for, and I'm going to pray it doesn't happen on Sunday, but I know it's coming, is what everybody calls the big one. Now, if anybody wants to know what the big one is, unfortunately at Daytona, it just never fails. It never fails. The big one is the one crash that for some odd reason, it always happens at Daytona. It always happens. It don't matter what time of the year it is. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It always happens. So since it always happens, unfortunately, we're going to have to be prepared for that. So there might be a likely chance. Now, there will be 43 cars in the field. So since there will be 43 cars in the field, probably at least 15 to 20 of those cars are probably not going to be racing at the end of the race, or some of them are going to be at least damaged, at least. So now, I don't want people to look forward to that crash because that's never fun. It's never fun. But we've seen a lot of great races of the Daytona 500. Okay, we've seen a lot of great races. I can tell you what first got me into NASCAR from my own personal experience. The first time I got into the Daytona was when I watched Dale Earnhardt Sr. go on that historic run, come in second as an end. It was also, unfortunately, the day that he passed on when he helped his buddy Waltrip finally earn his first Daytona 500. And he was holding those guys off left and right. And it was an amazing race. But unfortunately, he lost his life in turn 4 of the Daytona 500. I think that's something nobody could ever forget for anybody who was watching NASCAR at that time. Now, I was about 13 years old at the time when it happened. But that's when I first fell in love with NASCAR. And I was able to see like the brotherhood and the camaraderie from that day, like how NASCAR really is, and how the sport of NASCAR has really transformed. So with that being said, Daytona 500, if anybody has any winners, the winner I got, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go on the limb. I'm going for Bubba Wallace to be the number one driver to win this race on Sunday. I'm putting my stamp on it right now. I firmly believe he's got a shot. I think he's going to win. The guys who I think will be dead behind him, though, Joey Logano, I think will be number 2. I think he's going to get second place, and I think Denny Hamlin will be third. Kurt Busch, I think, will be probably number 4, and Chase Elliott probably will be 5th place from Hendrick Motorsports. I firmly believe those guys are going to be your top 5 on Sunday. I firmly believe that. I'm putting my stamp on it right now. This is what I'm saying. Daytona 500 is going to be on FS1 at 2:30 on Sunday. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. When I come back, we're going to talk about the Black Mamba and his Mambacita. So don't go anywhere on the No BS Show.
Hello and welcome to the Breakfast Mojo. I'm your host, Comedian Koi. We are back. Once again, this time it's King versus Clown. The clown, which we're talking about here, is none other than McDonald's hotcakes. And now we're going to also try the Burger King sweet syrupy stacks. Look at the box. Isn't that cute? Little box. Alright, so we're going to try and see which is going to be the preferred pancakes, McDonald's or BK, Burger King. So it's nice and hot, so let's see what happens here, folks. Let's see what I'm going to give a review. So they come with 3 stacks, as you can see. 3. Oh, look at the syrup just oozing. Okay. Try this. Let's make a comparison. I need some water. These are falling apart. McDonald's, they didn't fall apart at all, but these are can't even really keep their form after pouring syrup on them. there's definitely a distinct taste between the two of them. Similar, but yet distinctly different. But I noticed that Burger King pancakes are a lot more sweeter by itself. The syrup, it really doesn't need syrup. It really does taste like a cake, literally. McDonald's, on the other hand, really not much to go off of. It just tastes like bread. It's really your preference, folks. Do you want hot bread? Or do you want a stack of cakes? Because that's what it tastes like to me. So here's for my review. I'm gonna give this a breakfast booty. I'm gonna give it a breakfast booty. It's a breakfast booty. And I'm gonna give McDonald's a breakfast blah. Because there's really nothing fantastic, even with the syrup added to it. And even without the syrup, there's really nothing fantastic. I could at least say that BK does have a distinct taste without the syrup, which is more sweet, if that's what you prefer. So, would it be the McClown or would it be the King? Let us know at the Breakfast Mojo on WBGR Entertainment. I'm your host, Comedian Coy. We'll have some more stuff coming your way. We're gonna even visit a chef that's gonna cook for us, and we're gonna eat it, huh? Because that's what we do at the Breakfast Mojo.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Black Mamba. We're going to talk about the Black Mamba. I'm going to definitely talk about him and talk about his legacy and how, he left a lasting legacy behind. And I want people to understand what this means. So, Kobe, I want people to understand about Kobe Bryant. You know why a lot of people always try to compare Kobe to Jordan? Let me explain why. Jordan was cut from his basketball team back when, in the way back, right? The thing about Kobe was when he was at Lower Merion, he was a good kid out of Lower Merion High School in Philly, was balling out, okay? And then when he got to the NBA, first time he played on the NBA floor, this man was throwing air balls like you could never see in his life. And then next thing you know, the commentators at that time, everybody could talk, back at that time, they straight up, was dogging this man, saying he was a bum, he can't shoot, he can't do this, he doesn't do that. Next thing you know, he said, I will never let you talk about me like that ever again. And then next thing you know, he not only became a 5-time NBA champion, won two-time finals MVP, 15-time NBA All-Star, 12-time All-Defensive NBA team, and I'm going to take 4-time MVP, okay? As an All-Star MVP, was a scoring champion twice, okay? 96 All-Rookie team, okay? I mean, the accolades, I could go on and on about his accolades. I could really go on and on about the Black Mamba all day. But it wasn't so much about what he did on the court. It was about his mentality and on the court. See, the reason why he was called the Black Mamba, because he was a quick striker and he was a straight up assassin. You know how I knew he was a straight up assassin? When he dropped 81 points in a game where he told his teammates, y'all ain't gonna get the ball. How you tell somebody you not gonna get the ball? And they just was straight up hand you the ball, and next thing you know, you drop 81 points just because you can. And, I mean, that's just what it was. I mean, he was a straight up animal, and couldn't nobody stop that. And what's even more crazy is in his final game. Now, granted, everybody could say they basically let him jack up shots. But the truth is at the end of the day, he still dropped 60 points in his last game. I mean, that to me is unprecedented. I don't think anybody will ever do that ever again in their final game, because the only person that came close was Dwayne Wade, in which he dropped like 20 believe it was 25 points in his last game. So, he had a great game on his last game. But with that being said, when we talk about the Mamba mentality and what he is left with him and his daughter Gianna, Jay-Z said this in an interview. He said the last conversation he had with Kobe was on New Year's. And he said how he wanted him to see Gianna play. Now, it really kind of hurts because when you think about it, she was going to be well on her way to the WNBA. That wasn't even going to be a question. I'm almost 1,000% sure that young lady was going to go to the WNBA. Now, granted, she was, only 13 years old, but I felt like in 5 years, she was most certainly going to get to a high level in basketball that no other young lady was going to be playing. And it came at a time where it couldn't have been a better time to be a WNBA player because they just upped the pay for all women basketball players because they finally opened up the revenue sharing. So now a lot of veteran players are getting bare minimum a lot more money than they used to in the past. Because bare minimum they was only getting like $70,000. Now they're getting close to, I think it's like $200,000 to $300,000 a season, which is very, very good. And I mean, for women's sports, it's just gotten so much better, and we couldn't have asked for anything better. We just couldn't. So it couldn't have been a better time, right? It couldn't have been a better time. So since it couldn't have been a better time, now you have to say to yourself, like, gosh, what could have been if they were both still alive? We could have saw more greatness out of the Bryant family. And that's what's really like, you say to yourself, how did this happen? Well, let's look at the facts. We talked, January 26th was the day he passed on. And it was kind of sad for me because I was celebrating my birthday early that day. And I started getting calls from other journalists that I knew when I was watching the news about this helicopter going down. I think a lot of us, we always like, okay, it's just another unfortunate crash and unfortunate death. We're praying for the families. But once we heard that Kobe Bryant was on that chopper, I think that it hit us all with a sense of, wow, tomorrow is really not promised. There was a rumor going around that this is an unconfirmed rumor. I'm going to say this. This is a unconfirmed rumor that in the moments before the end of the crash, Kobe had his daughter in a position where he was trying to brace her for the impact. So that let us know how much, not just because how much of a father and how much of he loves his daughter, but it also let us know he was a human being just like all of us. Okay? And I think for a lot of basketball fans, it didn't matter if you was a Celtics fan, it didn't matter if you was a Lakers fan, it didn't matter if you was a Bucks, whatever fan of a team you were, you felt for Kobe Bryant and you felt for his wife Vanessa. I could not imagine having to bury my spouse and, your daughter at the same time because of this unfortunate incident, and it's the conditions that day were not great. They were not great. It was foggy. It was a lot going on that day. Even the police department had grounded their own choppers. And a lot of other companies were grounding choppers, but it was unfortunate. But it was an unfortunate thing, and it goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, that life is very short. And when you put things into perspective, if there are people in your life that you haven't seen in forever, I would go home. I would go get on the phone, give them a call. Go home, give them a call. February 24th is going to be the day of the memorial. So the tickets have already went on sale. They start at $24, and they're limiting 2 tickets per person, and it goes up to $224 for the viewing, for viewing information of the memorial to celebrate the life of Gianna Bryant and Kobe Bryant. And what's really even more sad about this situation is that, a lot of people want to talk about Kobe, but the truth is his 13-year-old daughter didn't even get to see life. This man was 41 years old. And as parents, I'm not a parent myself yet, but I know if I did have a little one, I could not imagine having to bury my child before they bury me. I could not imagine that. My mother says this to me all the time. I'm always, every day of my life, I am preparing you for the day I have to leave this earth. My mom prepares me for that all the time. It's something that we all don't want to think about, but we have to think about it because of the fact that death, unfortunately, is a part of life. And at any moment, it can come to any of us. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I implore everybody to do. When you go home, tell your loved ones you love them. Fathers, tell your sons and your daughters that you love them, because they need to know that their dad loves them. Moms, same thing. Tell your sons and your daughters you love them, because at the end of the day, we could all just depart from this earth just like that. Because Kobe and his daughter, I don't think they thought that morning, today was going to be my last. I don't think they thought that. I don't think anybody thinks that. You think to yourself, oh, it's just another helicopter ride. I'm just going to go straight as I go to basketball practice, do my thing, and then play basketball. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And they were all waiting. His Miss Sports Academy, they were all waiting for him to show up. And then it was unfortunate that they all had to hear the news beforehand. Now, I am going to talk about ethics as a journalist. There were a lot of things that day that bothered me, so I'm just going to straight up call them out on this. TMZ, I think, absolutely needs to go do some training on ethics of being a journalist. I don't understand how you put out the information that Kobe and his daughter have passed away before the police department was able to notify the next of kin. I think that really was one of those situations where, as a journalist, you have to keep that information to yourself until it's been released to the family. Because for Vanessa Bryant to have to find out on TMZ that her husband and her daughter passed is, to me, unethical. And it shows a lot about TMZ and who they are and what they stand for. And that's the kind of journalism that you cannot, that is a lot of media journalists, we have to say to ourselves, where is your humanity? How would you feel if you found out that your loved one died on television? You had to find, that's how you had to find out. You had to find out from a stranger source that, hey, look, by the way, so-and-so's gone. I couldn't imagine finding that out. I couldn't imagine waking up one morning finding out that one of my people passed on because because I was watching the news. Okay? I couldn't imagine watching that. I think that there are just certain things in life you just don't do. And for TMZ to put out that information about his death before next of kin was notified, I think that somebody needs to have a conversation with them, maybe the FCC, or certain people or certain media groups that talk about ethics need to have that conversation with them, because I feel like there's no reason why that woman should have had to find out like that. Not like that. Not like that at all. And now getting back to Kobe. Kobe and his daughter has already been buried because Vanessa and the family had on the Bryant family, they have already had the service at Pacific View Mortuary and Memorial Park in the Orange community of Corona Del Mar, California. So they already had a private funeral for them that was already held for them. So at this point, Vanessa will just do the memorial on the 24th, which is going to be in about 9 days. So, for any fans who want to go see the memorial service, it'll be at the Staples Center. Media journalists, you also need to know what you need to do in the press release, and also media credentials for the memorial service of Kobe Bryant. And also around the NBA, they have obviously done a lot for Kobe. So Team Giannis, from what I understand, they are going to wear different numbers. So Team LeBron is going to wear number 2, and that was Gianna's number when she was playing. And then Team Giannis, they're going to wear 24 for Kobe Bryant. So that's what it's gonna be, and those uniforms are gonna honor the both of them for the All-Star game that is coming up. I'm pretty excited about that. I can't wait to see that myself, to see what the uniforms come out to be, to see those numbers and how players are honoring their life, and let's keep this into perspective. In fact, what we're going to do now, we're going to actually go forward to the next topic. What is it? So we're going to go forward with that. If you guys want to comment, share, go ahead and talk to me about it. We're going to talk about what does Kobe's death mean for the NBA. What it means for the NBA is this, ladies and gentlemen. What it means for the NBA is this. The Black Mamba has shown everybody, not just here at WBGR, here at any sports media company, any sporting event, that life is highly precious. It's highly precious. And it's very short. You think, all of us think that we have a lot of time on this planet. And you saw firsthand what happened. Because anything can happen. And the legacy that they left behind. This is something that I take and I tell my friends all the time. Live your life how you want to be remembered. Live your life how you want to be remembered. That's what you need to be doing. If you know that you're not living the way you're supposed to be living, then I would start living right now. Because everybody dies, but not everybody lives. So you have to live your life the way you want to be remembered. If you want to be remembered as this great person, then live it like that. Because I can tell you how I want to be remembered. I can tell you that I want to be remembered this way. But if I'm not living it, then it doesn't mean anything. I can tell you that my words can mean a thousand things. But I have to live that. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, you have to live your life the way you want to be remembered. Because that's what Kobe did. Kobe went through a lot throughout his lifetime. From the time he was drafted all the way to the end of his career. He went through a lot of things, and he overcame those things and became a staunch supporter of a lot a lot of different things in his life. You know, for an example, he was a huge advocate of of women's sports, especially since he had a lot of girls, because because they were trying to have a son. They ended up having another daughter, but they were trying their hardest to have a son. And they were willing to try one more time after their 10-month-old to try to have a son. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. He was never able to get his son before he passed. So, but always been a huge advocate of women's sports, women's rights. He was an ambassador for that. I mean, he's part of the reason why, there's been higher pay in the WNBA. He's part of the reason why they got that, okay? And I think what's even more crazy, and I say this now, I think what's even more crazy is the fact that now that the WNBA is making more money, I mean, I think we all saw it by now because, certain journalists out there didn't know how to act right, but we're going to talk about her. We're going to talk about Gayle King. I think everybody saw that interview with her and Lisa Leslie about Kobe, about her best friend Kobe and his legacy and her friendship with him. And the way that question was asked, and I know Gayle King could say 1,000 things, but at this point the damage is already done. We've already seen what she had said. And I mean, granted, CBS could say that, they changed the clips or whatever. She could say whatever she wants to say. Except the problem is you still asked a question that probably shouldn't have been asked. Everybody could talk about, well, you can't talk about Kobe while talking about this. No, you actually kind of can, because the truth is he got over that situation long before he died and became such a champion for women. Okay? For women. And for him, to take his legacy and turn it into this grand, individual. That's why I said I think I'm going to call for it right now, and I'm with Chris Broussard from FS1 on this. They need to retire Kobe's number 24. They need to retire it. Retire that number, and that'll be the end of that, because this was something that we've never seen before in the NBA. And I'm talking about, I've never seen such support for a man that nobody knew. I did not even know this man personally. I never got to speak to this man. I have a colleague of mine, Mikel Ramos. She actually has a show called Rolling with Ramos. Shout out to my homegirl. She's really good at that show. But she got her opportunity to interview Kobe on his final game in Washington, D.C. And, I remember that I ended up talking to her about it. But at the end of the day, and I text her and let her know that, my heart is with her, because of the fact that she was my friend Michael, she was a huge Kobe fan. Huge Kobe fan. Still is. But she let me know that she was okay. And that's all that mattered to me. But I think what people need to take away from the situation is the mere fact that this had shown how much we care about each other as people. This is a man that literally brought a lot of people together in a time of tragedy and had grown men. I don't think I've ever seen this before on national television. Grown men
we're cooking up mouth-watering Peruvian
crying. Grown men were crying on national television. Okay? And when you have grown men crying on national television, I've never seen that before. I don't think anybody's ever seen that before. And that showed that everyone is human. And that everyone knows that these lives were precious. And that we lost a young life, and we lost him. And then there were 7 other people who were with them who passed on. And I want to send my thoughts and prayers out to those families for who they lost, because they ended up losing one of Gianna's teammates. There's a couple of Gianna's teammates, and then their parents. My heart goes out to those families as well. I know their heart is aching right now, because you will not be able to see your loved ones anymore. And and on top of that, an entire family was lost in that crash. And for the NBA, it shows that, our greatest athletes, they're not invincible. It showed that they're not invincible, but it also showed that they're human just like you and me. It shows that they have emotions just like you and me. LeBron James, we all saw him cry on national television. We saw Dwayne Wade put out his Instagram post. I remember the night that it happened, the first thing I said, I was texting my friends out west. I was talking to people here in the DMV. I was like, where is Magic? Where's Magic Johnson? Somebody needs to find that man and find out if he's okay. He ended up putting out a statement later on that night that he was fine. Then there was rumors that Rick Fox was on that chopper. I don't know who started that rumor, and it was unconfirmed. And then eventually Rick Fox put out a statement that he was okay. He was not on the helicopter. I think that when times of tragedy happen like this, I think people got to be careful when they put out those kinds of pieces of information, because of the fact that, you could start something that ain't there, that doesn't need to be there, and cause a mass hysteria. So I think that what we all could take from Kobe's death, and I'm going to say this one last time before I move on, to the NBA for the last topic of the day. When you go home, you look yourself in the mirror and you say to yourself, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want my legacy to be defined? How do I want this to go? And you start living right now. You start living right now. When you said you was going to start that business, go start your business. When you said you wanted to be an actress or an actor, go do that. If you want to be the best basketball player known to man, then start going down to the court right now and working on your game. You want to be the best football player out there. If you want, then go start working on your craft. You want to be the best lawyer, to go home and work on your craft. Start doing it now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till yesterday. Do it right now, because because you never know what might happen. I'm not saying live your day like it's your last. Live your day like it's your first. Live your life like it's your first day on this planet. You're young, vibrant, and full of life. Start living it like it's your first day. Because they're not because you will go hard every single day. And don't settle for nothing less, because Kobe Bryant did not settle for mediocre. He did not settle for mediocre, and he wasn't going to settle for anything less. And don't make excuses. Just make it happen. Make it happen. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, our heart, thoughts, and prayers are out with the Bryant family. And this is what I'm going to say to all of you sports fans. Live your best life. And that's all I can tell you. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the NBA and where we are right now in the state of the NBA. So don't go anywhere on No BS Show.
Are you hungry yet? Come on over to Peru's Chicken, where we're cooking up mouth-watering Peruvian-style dishes like quesadillas, tacos, burritos, yuca, arroz con mariscos. camarones a la parrilla, charbroiled chicken, fresh salads, and so much more. Our friendly staff at both of our locations, Lanham at 9001 Annapolis Road in Lanham, Maryland, or Mitchellville at 12106 Central Avenue in Mitchellville, Maryland, we are ready to serve you. Just come on in. Y claro que sí, hablamos español. Peru's Chicken. ¿Tengo hambre?
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of the NBA, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. So, the All-Star game is coming up very soon, okay? You know, All-Star 2020, man. That's going to be February 16th, which is tomorrow. That's going to be at 8 o'clock. So, you'll have a lot of sporting events to look at tomorrow, okay? You're going to have the NASCAR. You're going to have the XFL. You have a lot of stuff to watch tomorrow, but got a lot of sports going on at the same time, so I think it's going to be pretty dope. I think it's been a very, very fun. I think 2020 is going to be a great year of sports. So, like I said, in the All-Star game, Team Giannis will wear 24. Team LeBron will wear number 2 for Gianna. So that's going to be that. But yesterday was the All-Star Celebrity Game, right? And then the Rising Stars was yesterday as well. Today, though, is the Slam Dunk Contest. Slam Dunk, 3-point contest, and the Taco Bell Skills Challenges all tonight at 8 o'clock on TNT. Now, so that's going to be interesting. I want people to keep that in mind. This is going to be a very interesting All-Star game. Now, who do I think is going to win? If I had to say, I'm definitely going Team Giannis. Everybody's going to call me crazy for that. I don't care what anybody says. LeBron James, yeah, he's great, but guess what? You're going up against the young stud and Giannis. Giannis is a dog. That boy is literally a game away from being in the NBA Finals. The only team he's going to have to kind of contend with, I hate to say it, okay? The only team he's going to have to contend with is probably going to be either the Raptors or Boston. Because Boston, the way they're playing right now, I've been saying this about my Celtics for a long time. Jason Tatum just needed to find a way to start going off. And y'all saw what he did the other night, going off of 40-plus points in a game. You know, a little close to that. So at the end of the day, and then now Kevin Garnett made headlines because he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's going, okay? He's going to Springfield, Mass. That's going to be pretty awesome. I can't wait. So with that being said, KG is also going to have his number 5 retired. Now, I know some people really didn't want to hear that because the fact that he was only with the Celtics for 5 seasons. I think what people are going to understand is what he meant to Boston. Granted, he wasn't in Boston for that long. He was there for 5 years. But in those 5 years, KG has actually given more to Boston than he's given to any other team than he's ever played for. When he was with the T-Wolves, yeah, we knew how good he was with the T-Wolves. But he wasn't really happy there. And then he gets to Boston. He was more than happy. He balled out. He gave us headlines. He just was a brash guy, but you knew this man brought wisdom to the game, and you knew that he was going to straight out dog you out on the floor. You knew he was going to straight dog you out on the floor. Great player. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. And I'm glad to see that KG had is getting his number retired with Boston. Now, with that being said, the other finalists for the Hall of Fame, obviously Kobe Bryant. Kobe's getting his number retired. It's still unclear though who is going to present. It's still unclear who is going to present Kobe's legacy at the Hall of Fame. That is still unclear on who is going to do that. But as soon as we get word, you guys will be the first to know. But it is still unclear on who is going to present present him at the Hall of Fame, especially since it's so long away. Tim Duncan is also going to be in, and KG is also in. So that's going to be pretty dope. Now, with that being said, let's also talk about the standings right now in the NBA. So right now, the teams to watch out for. I've been saying this isn't that everybody's gonna call me crazy for this. So the Bucks obviously are number one. Obviously. But the thing is I want people to understand something. The team they gotta watch out for, because see, the West right now is kind of a toss up. Right now the Lakers are 3 games ahead of the Nuggets right now, and the Clippers is 4 games behind the Lakers. But here's the reason why I feel like the Clippers is still the team to beat in the West. First off, let's look at the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Thunder. Nobody cares about them because Luka Doncic, he's good, but let's be honest, he's the only thing they got. The Grizzlies, we don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about them. The Trailblazers, if they go on a win streak, they can actually switch places with the Grizzlies, but they have to go on a win streak, and they need to start now. They lost their last 2 games. They're 10-20 on the road. They're a terrible road team. Everybody knows that. And they've been 6-4 in their last 10 games. Now, the Nuggets, on the other hand, they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They lost 1. They lost their last game. And the Lakers right now, they're on a 3-game win streak. And right now, the team to watch, though, the sleeper team, the Utah Jazz, they are 36-18 right now, and they won their last 4 games. But they're 5-5 in their last 10 games, but they won their last 4. Not so great road team, 16-13 on the road, but they're 20-5 at home. So, I think what people are going to have to pay attention to is the fact that right now, the West is not looking so hot, but the East is not looking so hot after you start looking after the last 2 teams, because the last 2 teams are not that great, because the Brooklyn Nets, nobody cares about them. They're 25-28. And the Magic, they're 24-31. They'll just get in by default because there's really nobody else in the East that's better. But the top 6 teams at least have 11 games in between their losses. So the Milwaukee Bucks 46-8. The Raptors are 40-15. The Celtics are 38-16. The Heat are 35-19. Jimmy Butler is balling out of his life. Philadelphia 76ers are 34-21, and the Pacers are 32-23, especially since they got back my man Victor Oladipo, who is a local product from DeMatha High School, and everybody knows DeMatha High School here in Maryland. They have produced some very, very interesting products. And speaking of interesting products, another good product that is actually finally starting to ball out, and we're starting to finally see who he really is Markelle Fultz out of DeMatha High School as well. He was the number 1 pick in the draft with the 76ers a couple of years back. He was hurt for a couple of years, got traded to the Magic. Now he's with the Magic and he's balling. But we still don't know about him yet. We got to see a couple more games out of Markelle Fultz to see where he's at physically. So I'm pretty sure and I'm pretty confident that Markelle Fultz is probably going to take the Magic to another level. However, they're 24-31. So let's be honest. You're only getting in not because your team is great, because you're below 500 ball. You're getting in because, unfortunately, the rest of the East is just not that. Doesn't have that many great basketball teams. Now they're on a 2-game win streak. Okay, they are 15-13 at home, but they are god awful on the road. They're 9-18 and the number 8 seed. If the season was to end today, they would be the number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference, and the team they would obviously face would be the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Bucks will probably destroy them and call it a day. Now the team to watch out for in the East, I've been saying this, is the Boston Celtics, because they got a lot of pieces. Gordon Hayward is finally coming along. Jason Tatum is finally coming along. He trained with the Black Mamba himself. And then you got Kemba Walker, who's been balling out of his mind. We all know Kemba Walker from the UConn days. So, with that being said, right now, I'm going to say this. Out of the Eastern Conference, I definitely got the Bucks making it, because the Raptors, I'm just not so sure about them without Kawhi Leonard. Now, Pascal Siakam, I'm not going to act like the boy ain't balling, because ever since he got his money, all of a sudden, we've seen a different Pascal Siakam. But I don't see how the Raptors right now really go that far without him, so we'll see. Now, the Celtics, they got a lot of pieces as long as they get a lot of home games. Now, they'll probably beat most of the teams that they're going to face. So they'll beat the Pacers, because let's just be honest for a second. The Pacers are not going to beat Boston in Boston. They're just not going to. Now, if the Raptors get knocked out first round, then the only team that's going to be a threat to the Bucks would be the Boston Celtics, because the 76ers, I'm sorry, they can't get out of their own way. They just can't. So, and then in the Western Conference, I got the LA Lakers going all the way. But I feel like they're going to lose to whoever they see in the East. So that's that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am out of time. So I want to thank all of you for watching the show this morning. I got a lot to talk about in this Black History Month. So next week, I'm going to bring a lot of more Black History next week on the 22nd. So I want you guys to be ready for that show, because I am going to put out some facts. And we're going to talk about some history next week. So get ready for some history lessons next week. And we're going to talk about the state of all the current sports regarding that Black history. So I want everybody to go to the Facebook page. Let's go ahead and go to that. So I want everybody to go ahead and look at the No BS No Holds Barred Sports Talk Show viewer group on Facebook. I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe to that. I put out an article about the Daytona 500, so go ahead and read that, ladies and gentlemen. I put one on WBGR Sports, and I also put one out on my own personal page. Also, go to the YouTube page. You look at past shows, so that way you guys can go ahead and watch that, and you can see exactly what's going on in sports. Also, go to the blog on Blogger, No BS No Holds Barred Sports Talk.blogspot.com. Posted an article. I want you guys to go ahead and read that, and I got another article coming out probably later on today, and you guys will be able to read that. Follow my social media at Insane_Shane29, Underground SB29, _29, No BS No Holds Barred. My name, Shane Hector, on Facebook, and Underground Sports LLC.blogspot.com. And then also, if you want to advertise with the show, email me at undergroundsportsllc@gmail.com. So, with that being said, this is my new website. undergroundsportsllc.weebly.com. That is my website. Please, ladies and gentlemen, go to the website. So that way you guys can see some shows. Look at the website. I want you guys to go ahead and just click on that and go ahead and look at the new cool links that I have up. And I want everybody to go ahead and take a look at it. And let me know what you think in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Team No BS. I love you guys. So I want you guys to go ahead and pay attention to that and look at it. So, with that being said, happy Valentine's Day, you lovers and friends. Your boy Shane Hector is out of the building. Team No BS is out of the building. Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. I'm out. Peace.